Welcome to Sinister Heroes. I'm your host, Danny Iniquitous. Thank you for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, this is a channel about Dungeons and Dragons where we try and take a darker tone with everything we do here. So if you like darker, edgier kind of content, definitely hit that like and subscribe button. A big thank you to our Patreon supporters. We love you guys. Thank you for supporting the channel. If you're interested in becoming a Patreon supporter, the link is in the description, as well as the link to our socials and the link to our good friends at Dice Legion for all your D&D IRL games, accessories, dice bags, all of that stuff. Check them out and use the promo code Sinister and get 10% off all of your purchases. With all that out of the way, we're talking about the Ancients Paladin. Now, the Ancients Paladin came from the Player's Handbook. This is more of an older Paladin at this point, but it's more of a Paladin that's kind of built around having a connection to the elements and to being closer to nature. This brings you closer to the druid than it does any other subclass or class in the game. It is a unique one. It is very great defensively. You'll see a lot of people pick Ancients Paladin specifically for those purposes. Now, I want to talk about the tenets just so that we get a good idea as to what the Ancients Paladin is about. So again, there are 4 tenets. First one is kindle the light. Through your acts of mercy, kindness, and forgiveness, kindle the light of hope in the world, beating back despair. Shelter the light. Where there is good, beauty, love, and laughter in the world, stand against the wickedness that would swallow it. Where life flourishes, stand against forces that would render it barren. Preserve your own light. Delight in song and laughter, in beauty and art. If you allow the light to die in your own heart, you can't preserve it in the world. And finally, be the light. Be a glorious beacon for all who live in despair. Let the light of your joy and courage shine forth in all your deeds. Now, I don't normally go through the tenets, but I like these tenets because it gives your paladin a purpose for A, being wild, because this encourages you to live your life, to go out and to party and to have this incredible nightlife and social life and be involved in these great moments. It screams a lot to the Fae, which is nice, because it's an attraction to beauty, and to song and art and things like that, and it encourages you to protect it in a way that only a paladin can. I like that. I like the themes behind it. It seems very much a mentality that could be very easily connected to with today's world, and I think that just really sets a nice, not so serious tone for the paladin, where it gives you a little leeway to be happier. Now, because being happy really isn't our thing, let's talk about some of the actual abilities you get. And one of my favorites is Nature's Wrath. You can use your channel divinity to invoke primeval forces to ensnare a foe. As an action, you can cause spectral vines to spring up and reach for a creature within 10 feet of you that you can see. The creature must succeed on a strength or dexterity saving throw, its choice, or be restrained. While restrained by the vines, the creature repeats a saving throw at the end of each of its turns. On a success, it frees itself and the vines vanish. The other channel divinity you get is Turn the Faithless. You can use your channel divinity to utter ancient words that are painful to Fae and Fiends to hear. As an action, you present your holy symbol, and each Fae or Fiend within 30 feet of you that can hear you must make a wisdom saving throw. On a failed save, the creature is turned for 1 minute or until it takes damage. A turn creature must spend its turns trying to move as far away from you as it can, and it can't willingly move to a space within 30 feet of you. It also can't take reactions. For its action, it can only use the dash action to try and escape from an effect that prevents it from moving. If there's nowhere to move, the creature can use the dodge action. If the creature's true form is concealed by an illusion, shapeshifting, or other effect, that form is revealed while it is turned. Now, I like restrained abilities. I think they're absolutely awesome. They can give your whole party advantage on attack rolls against one creature, and it prevents them from being able to hit anything because they can be out of range. They have disadvantage on attacks. It's a bunch of stuff that's in your benefit. Usually restrained conditions kind of involve an AoE. A bunch of them do, but this limiting it to one character can be very, very good for you, especially somebody that's moving around a lot, or if you happen to not be able just to have enough movement to reach someone, but enough movement to get into this range, that might be beneficial for you to use your channel divinity just to lock them down for a little bit. One round or one sequence of even some of your party members attacking with advantage is a huge huge uptick in damage for you and your party, and it helps you overcome a lot of difficult issues. Turn the Faithless is great. When you're fighting Fae or Fiends, they can't really be... a lot of them are immune to fears or charmed effects, so being able to do a similar effect to them is a great way to crowd control them. It's one of the few ways you can, and if you can do it, because they can't use their actions to do anything but dash and dodge. So that means your whole party is safe from anyone who's happened to be hit by this. It's just in your benefit, and it's really stronger than you people often think, because debilitating a large group of people can make a huge change. Aura of Warding. At 7th level, the ancient magic lies so heavily upon you that it forms an eldritch ward. You and friendly creatures within 10 feet of you have resistance to damage from spells. At 18th level, the range of this aura increases to 30 feet. Now, I don't know exactly if multiple resistances would stack here. You are getting it from different effects, but it might be something you want to talk to your DM. But what does stack is, say there's a dexterity saving throw, and you make that saving throw. That's half that damage. And then you have this. You now take half of that damage, because you're resistant to the damage of the spell, and you avoided it from making the save to take half damage. It works. You're greatly cutting down on the amount of damage you take, especially being an upfront person. You are really in line to take a lot of AoE damage, especially if you have a lot of melee combatants with you. So take the benefit of this incredibly powerful passive. At 15th level, you get Undying Sentinel. When you are reduced to 0 hit points and not killed outright, you can choose to drop to 1 hit point instead. Once you use this ability, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest. Additionally, you suffer none of the drawbacks of old age, and you can't be aged magically. Now, the role-playing potential of not suffering any drawbacks of old age and can't being aged magically is dependent on what your DM is doing. That's a real ribbon feature. That just gives you the ability to be super old. Outside of that, there's very few abilities that gives you the opportunity to jump back from 0 to 1 HP. That being said, you do have Lay on Hands. So if you stay down and get up and just burn as much of Lay on Hands as you possibly can, you can potentially get right back into that fight at a pretty decent, substantial amount of health and do some real damage. It's an incredibly powerful passive, and you get it just for hitting 15th level. Finally, at 20th level, you gain Elder Champion. You can assume the form of an ancient force of nature, taking on an appearance you choose. For example, your skin might turn green or take on a bark-like texture. Your hair might become leafy or moss-like, or you might sprout antlers or a lion-like mane. Using your action, you undergo a transformation for 1 minute. You gain the following benefits. At the start of each of your turns, you regain 10 hit points. Whenever you cast a Paladin spell that has a casting time of 1 action, you can cast it using a bonus action instead. Enemy creatures within 10 feet of you have disadvantage on saving throws against your Paladin spells and Channel Divinity options. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest. So, first off, you get to augment how your character looks, which I think is pretty cool. Depending on what you like, you can take any kind of combination of those that you feel is cool and really kind of dive into your theme. You can be very like evil forest breeding knight, like something that's dark and lives in that kind of an atmosphere, because back in all the ancient literature, that was scary. The forest was a scary place to go. In fantasy and elden times, that was a very dangerous place to be. So you can take on forms that make it seem like that's a more inhabited to you. First and foremost, we're getting 10 hit points each turn is fantastic. That's basically minus 10 on all damage that you would have taken. You're a paladin, so you have high AC, so you might end up just gaining hit points in a level 20th fight, where normally you could just suffer from it. But that really extends your HP. It really makes you significantly more tanky, because you probably won't go down in one hit. So this will definitely extend your life expectancy for that 1 minute, which is a long period of time. The casting a spell as a bonus action really comes down to how you play a paladin. if you actually take the time to use their spells, there's a lot of great ones in there. You can use Destructive Wrath and really just lay down that, knock somebody prone, and then go in and go crazy with your Paladin Smites or whatever it is. You need to know your Paladin spells well, and you need to be able to choose them and be willing to spend the spell slots not on Smites. It's a really different kind of Paladin when you do that, so kind of be prepared to make that. Otherwise, this 20th level ability really is going to work for you. Because again, the final feature with it gives every enemy disadvantage against your Paladin spells. So, that being said, it really works in tandem with being a more caster-like Paladin when you're using this ability. So feel free to use some of those spells and really go into it, because it makes them better, it makes them more effective, it makes your channel divinity more effective, and it gives you a cool sequence of options where you can cast a spell and then go in there and make 2 attacks, which a Paladin can do, and do a devastating amount of damage in that kind of a atmosphere. The Ancients Paladin has this great concept of being this righteous defender of a good time. But it has a strong druidic theme behind it. The mixture of those two really kind of makes it a very Fey enthusiastic kind of class, but it's very, very strong against fighting the Fey, which is a nice, cool concept to have. There's a lot of cool things that you can play around with character-wise, building a story behind it. Maybe you hate the Fey, but you love the places that they have or the time you spent there. You can come up with really cool ideas as to who your character is, and still have a lot of leeway with not being such an uptight, strict Paladin, and really have more of a more relaxed, more realistic take on being a Paladin. That's something definitely to consider. With all that being said and done, we're going to bring this video to a close. If you like what you saw and definitely made it this far into the video, hit that like and subscribe button. A big thank you to our Patreon supporters. We love you guys. Thank you so much for supporting us. If you're interested in becoming a Patreon supporter, the link is in the description, as well as the link to our socials and our good friends at Dice Legion. Use the promo code Sinister, get 10% off all of your purchases. And with all that said and done, thank you for giving a spooky kid a chance.